Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear Excellencies, dear guests, dear participants, dear audience, first of all, thank you very much for coming in this beautiful morning of Antalya. I am deeply honored to be the chair of today's roundtable titled Our Common Future, Youth for Global Peace, within the margin of the Antalya Diplomacy Forum, where we gather under the theme of the advancing diplomacy in a time of turmoil. The roundtable of ours offers a crucial opportunity to discuss the pivotal role of youth in shaping a more peaceful world. Before we delve into our discussions, allow me to express my heartfelt thanks to the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Turkey and His Excellency Hakan Fidan Bey. And also, I want to express my deepest appreciations and admirations to His Excellency Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who puts a clear vision for a fairer and peaceful world with his leadership and attitude and brought us together in here through the Antalya Diplomacy Forum. As His Excellency Erdogan mentioned in his opening speech of the forum, the recent crises of the world, namely Ukraine, Rohingya, and Gaza, and many others, has been shown us how the international structure has remained dysfunctional. The world needs a fresh thinking on the reform pathways of the international system that will help the deadlock to meet the moment. In this regard, youth play an enormous role for the future of the global peace to produce the needed fresh thinking. Today, I am surrounded by a very distinguished group of people from all over the world. This distinguished group of young people, each of whom brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to our roundtable. Firstly, we are privileged to have Professor Dr. Talha Köse. He is a well-known professor in the field of peace studies, and he has many reputable publications in various well-known academic journals and institutions. And in my left, we have Dr. Meryem Coronel Ferrer Hanım from Philippines. In addition to the theoretical knowledge regarding the subject of her, since she is the first female chief negotiator in the world to sign a final peace accord, she has a unique experience in the practice of providing sustainable peace. Today, we have two young members of parliament, namely Mr. Shaban Harisovic from the Federation of Bosnia-Herzegovina and Dr. Marian Mimbantes Makasalong from Bangsamoro Transition Authority from the Philippines. As the young members of the parliaments and the witnesses of the conflict and peace eras of their countries, their valuable contributions will be welcomed by the audience today. We also have a special guest from Kutsal Sherif, Mr. Muntasir Ayub Etkayek, as the Executive Director of the Burj Al Laklak Social Center Society, which is located in the heart of the old city of Kutsal Sherif, and which is experiencing activities in the youth field. His Excellency Erdogan also mentioned in his opening speech a very crucial point that the international community announced its bankruptcy in Gaza. So we would like to hear his experiences from Kutsal Sherif and from Palestine. And because of the pressing issue, we have put the Palestine in the core of today's discussions. Last but not least, we have young leaders in our roundtable today. Ms. Selin Yilmaz Hanım, the President of the Youth Atlantic Treaty Association and the Fellow from the Lucerne Dialogue from Turkey, and youth activist Ms. Emel Ebubekir from Somalia. And our brother, Mr. Yaya Dame, the former president of the Sahil Youth Organization and current president of the Fund of the Talk for Education from Burkina Faso. Together, we represent a diverse array of backgrounds and expertise united in our commitment to advancing global peace and security, particularly through the engagement and empowerment of youth. In pursuit of this goal, for the last 5 years, Islamic Cooperation Youth Forum implements various programs, events, and youth gatherings in different countries and in different regions of the world. In total, we account thousands young people from around the world, which has been trained by ICYF on peace building in the last 5 years. Through these programs, we aim to inspire youth to become advocates of peace, dialogue, and reconciliation. As we engage in dialogue today, let us draw upon our collective experiences and insights to explore innovative solutions and strategies for fostering peace and understanding in our increasingly complex world. As the Islamic Cooperation Youth Forum, our unwavering commitment lies in empowering youth and fostering collaboration with our stakeholders to tackle pressing youth-related challenges. We prioritize equipping young individuals with the essential tools and skills needed to effectively advocate for peace. Distinguished guests, esteemed participants, in closing, I want to express my deepest gratitude to the city of Antalya, which has graciously welcomed us, and to all those who have worked tirelessly to make this forum a reality. Let's start the discussions of today. Thank you very much. So, Dr. Talha Kösebi, the floor is yours. We are very excited to hear your words on this topic.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. It's a great honor to be here with this distinguished group. I'd also thank ICYF and Turkish Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So it's a privilege to talk about peace and youth under current circumstances where we actually lose our faith in the international system and where we see really, dark pages of maybe the history. But the epicenter of the conflict resolution is talking about some hope at the center of the darkness. So all this idea, conflict resolution, peace work has been flourished under these dark circumstances. So, and unfortunately, young people are the most vulnerable group under the conflicts. They participate in civil wars, they suffer in the wars, they die in the battleground, their future economically declines as a result of all these developments. They are quite vulnerable and they have been driven by the decisions that are taken by older generations who focus on their existing mindset. So on the one hand, those existing mindsets are obstacle. On the other hand, interest of the young people are not taken into account. So as a discipline of conflict resolution, peace studies, actually there's a really wide space for young people's participation. So the logic of actually conflict resolution peace studies is based on much more inclusive framework. So I'm going to talk about some of these principles we sometimes forget, which are really helping the idea of inclusion of young people. So first of all, one of the fundamental principles of conflict resolution is the inclusivity. So inclusion of women, youth, disadvantaged groups, and marginalized groups. So I think we constantly hear this inclusivity, but unfortunately, when the major decisions are taken about peace and war, this inclusion has often been forgotten. But whenever the current rebuilding, peace-building process initiates, youth usually take the ground. But it is often too late. I mean, when the major decisions are made, old people, and strong men and women make the decision, and young people suffer. And when we are about to rebuild the peace, young people and women are expected to participate. I think the second issue is bottom-up approach to more comprehensive peace. I think it is also important because, young people often cannot find space for their voice. So the peace perspective that incorporates the bottom-up approach rather than top-down decision opens more space for young people. The third issue of, third idea is forward-looking perspective. So rather than making decision on the basis of looking at the past hostilities, I think conflict resolution tries to look at a more prospective idea. So when the vase is broken, we cannot completely look at the vase, and to keep it there. I think we have to reimagine something, what we can do with all these pieces and how can we bring it together. That's the key focus. We know that it will not go back to the original vase, but at least some forward-looking perspective imagines to create something new from the existing. The other thing is dealing with the past with a more empathic vision. So I think empathy is the epicenter of the peace, because oftentimes during the conflict, people always focus on their problem or their understanding of the vision. So I think if all these conflict resolution processes tracked to diplomacy, all these back channels try to generate some kind of empathy and seeing some vision from the other's perspective. And oftentimes, young people may be more open because their existing stereotypes and existing negative views about the other is less, and they are less, they are more flexible to understand empathy. The fifth idea is expanding the constituents of peace through art, culture, science, sports. I think, when we think about politics, politics has, black, white, and it is difficult to mix them. But if we go to other fields where young people are more engaged, science, sports, arts, I think there are much more colors in those areas, and those colors may open more space for more peaceful, more flexible kind of thinking. And the other way of thinking in conflict resolution is the more holistic perspective on security and identity, where climate, food, social justice are taken at the center. And I think one of the missing dimensions of existing security understanding in the mainstream security institutions is sees more from a militaristic perspective. And I think the ideas of dignity, ideas of human-centric understanding of the conflict is very important. And finally, in the perspective of conflict resolution is in general more longer-term horizon. Whenever these decisions are taken by the people at the top, oftentimes they stay there. I mean, it takes longer time for ordinary people, young people, women to take and really implement in the social life. So under these circumstances, I mean, when we give successful conflict resolution in the current context, we usually refer to post-World War II EU processes and, existing Western kind of examples. And when, unfortunately, we give conflict examples, we give Palestine, Syria, Sudan, Libya, Iraq, Somalia. Unfortunately, the majority of all these examples are from the Muslim world. But I think we also need to go back a little bit, the history, and we see many of these areas, the Muslim majority areas, has a peaceful history, and we oftentimes forget about the Ottoman Andalus history of peaceful coexistence where those values are existing. So, unfortunately, Muslim world, Muslim, societies have been identified in the mainstream with some conflict. But if we look at from more historical perspective, we may also recognize some of the underpinnings of these peace ideas there. So, due to all these, I think one other significant obstacle which lacks the young people's incorporation of the peace process is that, those people who initiate conflicts, who spread hostilities are more vocal. They are more represented in the political spectrum. They dominate the parties. And unfortunately, actually the marginal minority we see in Europe in many places dominate the political discussions. And we know that majority of the people, especially young people, women, are more open to thinking more flexibly. They are actually a silent majority who have more values that are more compatible for the peaceful coexistence. And unfortunately, it is much more difficult to mobilize those people, those silent majority for positive direction. Today we see that we see the conflict in Gaza, in many other places. We see the silent majority occasionally taking some space, taking some initiatives, but still I think it is much more critical for young people, we know that the conflicts affect them more, and the consequence of conflicts will take their future. And it is quite crucial for young people to get more organized, more mobilized, and take the political space and discussion for their future. So there's a major mobilization problem for the moderate majority, and I think it's very important to initiate these efforts. I think I also appreciate, youth movements. They have to be supported strongly, because I think looking from here to their future, I think it would be much more useful, much more beneficial for them to take peace initiatives. And I think we have to give more space for young people. Peace is more in their interest, and they shouldn't be dragged into conflicts that will ruin their future. Thank you for these initiatives.
Thank you very much, Dr. Köse, for bringing theoretical perspective and the Turkish insight as the head of the director of the Turkish Intelligence Agency. Thank you very much. And now I want to give floor to Professor Dr. Meryem Kornel Ferrer Hanım. She has a both theoretical background and also a huge practical background. So I'm very excited to listen her speech. Please, Dr.
Thank you very much, Mr. Taha, and good morning to everyone. Thank you to the Islamic Youth Cooperation Forum for organizing this event. I'll start with where the good professor started, which is we know that in the last few days we've seen how disappointed we are with the multilateral institutions, in the failure of these institutions, United Nations, for example, to really be able to address the different conflicts. But at the same time, we see that there were some good things that have come out of the United Nations. And perhaps I would like to focus, especially on this item, on two UN Security Council resolutions. I think you are all familiar with the earlier resolution, 1325, on women, peace, and security in 2010, and quite a long time after, only in 2015, followed up by the UN Security Resolution 2250 on youth, peace, and security. So what's the significance of framing women, gender, because now we're transitioning from WPS to GPS, framing it within the frame, the whole issues, problems, or even the paradigms of peace and security. I think that's what really has made the big leap forward, because we know that youth have been discussed in so many different ways. Juvenile delinquency is a very common approach to look at youth. There's the whole demographics of the youth population, which is very significant when it comes to even politics, like electoral politics, a huge voting population base, and all the way through, public health issues, etc. But to look at youth not as agents of peace and security, that's what we see has been stressed with the introduction precisely of this YPS framework. So what it amplifies is precisely that kind of participation in this work of diplomacy, mediation, peace processes that might not have been emphasized before, especially when youth has been looked at as basically a social issue, but not as a political actor. And also the emphasis on the philosophical framework of peace as a worldview. Peace-orientedness, the culture of peace as a framework for undertaking work with the youth, or for the youth being able to organize. And that's a big difference when that is the overarching framework of peace and security, and one that really sees, really fights for that kind of what seems to be an impossible vision. But as we heard in the forum yesterday on women, is global peace possible? And we saw all the forum speakers, the panel speakers, saying that yes, it is. Yes, it is possible. It won't be possible if we don't work for it. And the youth is certainly one of these major actors. Now, of course, we know that there's some differences between women and youth. We know youth is a transitory stage. although the range of who comprises the youth has been quite flexible across different countries and different cultures. But in any case, and women, well, more or less, it's sort of like a permanent, but now it's not really permanent, but more permanent identity or being, right? There are a lot of similarities at the same time. One is a similarity relating to the fact that youth is not a monolithic entity. Youth are variegated, so there's a lot of intersectionality within the youth, just as among women. Youth on the basis of tribes. I mean, youth in dominant tribes will experience different things, from youth coming from minority tribes across different classes or castes, ethnicities, nationalities, and citizenships. And that is why it begs us to really see youth not so much as like, one big thing, but really in all its different components, so that precisely our strategies and approaches are able to be sensitive and responsive to these variations that we see across the youth population. Now, while it has been a good thing that UN Security Council resolutions 2250 have actually generated some kind of a momentum to get countries, states to act in a more cohesive way within this kind of a platform or framework, we know that anything that emanates from the top will not be meaningful if it is not followed through, and the bottom actually takes the momentum and transforms precisely what is going on at the top. So over the last few years, and I've attended some of the initial gatherings. I was in Helsinki in 2019 when I was with the UN Standby Mediation Team for 3 years until 2020. One of my assignments throughout the 3-year period I was with them was on WPS and YPS. So in Helsinki, for example, I don't know if some of you were there in the first international conference on YPS. Of course, there were earlier ones since the 2015 resolution. One of the documents that was produced was this document entitled "We Are Here: Youth Role in Peace Processes," and precisely this political process is one aspect of participation that the youth are being encouraged and are given opportunities, or you are now fighting for precisely for these opportunities to take part in. So that high level initiative has been followed through with national action plans, even regional action plans across the different regions of the world. In Nigeria, for example, in Africa, I think it was the first. The Philippines has a youth national YPS national action plan, and several other countries in the Middle East. Some regions have adopted this, and there's now this initiative coming down to go down even at the bottom through local action plans. But as we also heard yesterday in the forum on women, even if you have these national action plans, if they're not implemented with accountability, with the kind of political will that's necessary, and precisely the organized youth who will have to carry this, then nothing will really happen. So at the end of the day, what we need, women in the youth sector, and so on, is really to generate a social movement. It's not enough to have NGOs. It's not enough to have programs. It's not enough to have projects. What we need to really, really become a political force is to become a social movement. And that means being able to organize, being able to network, and to really engage, the dynamics of the respective context that you are in. And the youth is no stranger on this count. We know that in the history, in the struggle against colonialism, the youth were the major actors. And maybe at the time it necessitated also the use of arms to be able to fight colonialism. But I think what we're trying to move forward here is precisely a social movement, a non-violent social movement that is effective, that is strong, that has power in numbers, power in network, power in ideas, and is able to transform transform society without having to use violence, and precisely to be able to stop the use of violence, political violence, the manufacturing of weapons that make it so easy to massacre people, to do genocide by mere possession or superiority of weapons. And I think that's a very important part of the agenda, this kind of agenda that we must pursue as a social movement, both women as a social movement, youth as a social movement, in really, really being able to change and make an impact, a big difference in this world. I am very hopeful, as I am, for example, in our experience in Mindanao with the Southern Philippines, where we signed the peace agreement in 2014, and my young friend here is now a member of parliament. We negotiated the peace agreement with the More Islamic Liberation Front in 2014. I chaired the government panel, and what I'm seeing now in their communities are precisely young men and women, like Marjani here, who are really assuming greater and greater responsibilities in the autonomous government, as well as in civil society, because we created a new regional autonomous government in the southern part of our country, and they are now governing. And I see that with a lot of help from the young people, a lot of help with, for your, to assist your elders, really, in being able to produce moral governance, which is one of the intentions of giving the right to self-determination, giving the right to self-governance of the Muslim population, the minority Muslim population in our country, then there's a real hope that a new brand of leadership will emerge, one that practices new politics, one that disavows the old practices, the political culture that had governed our society for the longest time. And not only those young people in government, but precisely the young people who have organized and are very active now in civil society organizations in the region, and who are as well very much linked to the civil society organizations, both nationally and internationally, because I think that kind of loop, a loop between the local, the national, the regional, national is very important to mutually inform each other and to precisely create a really, really powerful momentum that will change the world for it to become a better place. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mariam Hanum, for a very insightful speech. Now, from Philippines, I want to bring your attention another point of the world, Bosnia and Herzegovina. And with us now, we have the deputy from the Parliament of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Mrs. Haris Sabanovic. So, floor is yours, Dr. Haris Bey, please.
Taha Bey, thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here these days with you in Antalya on this big event. I want to use this opportunity because in my home country these days we have Independence Day, 32 years of renewing our independence, difficult, challenging 32 years, but proud and worthy. Topic of our meeting, youth and peace. Who could be more interested in peace than us? Who would be more interested how the world will look in 10, 20, 30 years than the young people? But what peace is? In general, when we think peace is opposite of war. For me, not. It's not only absence of war. You have so many people, because of their ethnicity, nationality, religion, not living peacefully, and they are not in a formal war. You have Rohingyas, you have Uyghurs, you have many groups, ethnicities, religion groups in the world not living peacefully, and they are not officially in the war. My first memory is about the war. I'm a member of the parliament now, one of the youngest. I'm member of the presidency, youth president of the biggest party in the Bosnia and Herzegovina. And I'm born on March 5th. I have a birthday also on 2 days, 1990. In July 1993, I was 3 years, 4 months old when I was taken to the concentration camp. with my mother, with my grandmother. Can you imagine how tough, dangerous I looked when I was a 3-year-old? No, I wasn't looking dangerous. But I was a threat to the Croatian army. I was taken to the concentration camp. The horrific scenario of the war in Bosnia and Herzegovina culminated in 1995. I'm talking you a little bit to history, and I will come with maybe some of the solutions. Culminated with the Srebrenica genocide. 8,372 people were killed in 72 hours, in 3 days. 125 people killing every hour. That's a lot of job to do. Why am I telling you this? There were coming elections in the US in the 1995. Clinton was very interested for Bosnia, and they had the surveys in the US. After the genocide, watching live on TV, 65% of people in US said they don't support military action in Bosnia to stop the genocide. What was the message after the Srebrenica genocide? They told us, the international community said, never again. That was the message, written and told for years. From this point of view, from 2024, this message is hypocrite and ironic, because we saw Ukraine a few years ago, now we're watching butchering of Gaza. So that message of the international community looks pretty much hypocrite. To be honest, we had a call on October 9, 2 days after the Gaza genocide started, as Bosnia and Herzegovina, from the messages from the international community. I don't know, is it even too smart to talk about that, to align with Israel. And we are only one of the few countries in the Europe that we haven't aligned with Israel, and we said we are with Palestinian people. Why is this important? We have a long history with Jewish people in Bosnia. I won't bother you with that. You can Google about Sephards and Ashkenazi in Bosnia and how much we helped them through the history. So we have fully right to say, we know as a small country, and I wrote that letter, what would be smart to do at this moment. But we know what is the right thing to do. And we say, no, we are not aligning with Israel. Why is this bothering you people? Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. If you close your eyes, good people doing nothing is enough for bad guys to win. Why? Professor Talhat did this really nice. He said silent majority. You have a majority of good people not vocal enough. And that's the biggest problem we have now. I work with youth for 15 years. I met fascist youth. I met racist youth, Islamophobic, fanatics. And they are minority, but very vocal minority. We are not winning the story because we are not vocal enough. We don't have action enough. I am a member of the Party of Democratic Action. In Turkey, you say Ali Izetbegovic Party. He made Party of Democratic Action. Why? Because 34 years ago, he realized we need a democracy and we need action to push that democracy because it's not going to do by itself. This is the job for all of us activists, especially youth activists. My country now is living on a peace agreement for 28 and a half years. Constitution of my country is one of the annexes of the peace agreement, still. Why am I telling you this? We have internal, external enemies. We are a small country and we are moving forward. How is that possible? Because you have one moving forward and two pushing backwards. How is that possible? You have to work 300% to be at zero, to stay at ground. If you want to move 1% forward, you have to work 301%. That's the formula. That's the formula for youth people. If you want to make a serious change, you have to work 301%. Unless this is not going to happen because nobody is doing our job. Peace is the ultimate goal. Without peace, anything else doesn't matter. I can't sleep for the last 4 months because someone is butchering innocent kids. Dostoevsky said that all the ideals of the world are not worth one tear in an eye of an innocent child. That's the story of peace. We are the most interested in peace. And on the trail of the story about the silent majority, I now find a quote from Alija Izetbegović from 1971, still pretty actual. And it says, it's about the youth. It's a message from me to you. What can we advise to parents and teachers? First of all, we can advise them not to kill power or potential in young person. Rather than that, it would be better to direct them, to shape them. Their prisoner is not a Muslim. And there is no way to transfer a dead man into Islam. If you want to raise a Muslim, you have to raise a human being as complete as possible. They should tell them, their youth, more about pride rather than modesty, more about courage than obedience. Tell them more about righteousness than about mercy. They should raise a dignified generation that will know it doesn't need anybody's permission to live and to be what they indeed are. Remember, progress of Islam, as any other progress, will not come from the peaceful and obedient ones, but from the brave ones and the rebellious ones. Democracy, action, diplomacy, faith, and fight. That's how I see the youth can do it right way. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Haris Bey, for such a touching speech and also sharing your experience of Bosnia and Herzegovina with us. Now I want to give the floor to the Dr. Marjani Bey from Bangsamoro. Please, floor is yours, Doctor.
Thank you very much. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. And a very good morning. First and foremost, I would like to thank the organizer of this event. This is very, we should admit that this is very impressive. And for me, this is the first time to attend a program like this. We are very fortunate that we are given the opportunity to actually give our insights, share our experience, and also to introduce our government, which is although autonomous in nature, but one way or another somehow regarded as one of the newest government in the world because of as a result of the peace negotiation between national government and rebel group in the southern part of the Philippines. So yes, I am Marjani, and I'm a member of the parliament of the newly established government. It's just a 4 years government. It was established in the late 2019. And at the same time, I head the Bangsamoro Youth Commission in the Bangsamoro government. And Alhamdulillah, the Bangsamoro government is actually on the right track of I would say on the right track of the reconstruction and rebuilding our region, and also to prove that actually we can run our own government. I've prepared some points here that I would like to read before in the later part of the speech. Would like to share some of our experiences in the Bangsamoro government. As far as the global sustainable peace is concerned, we have talked about this in our region among the youth, because we really want to, of course, sustain the gains of the peace process, as the term sustainable peace is very evident to this, because as of this moment, we can say that yeah, it is a very new government, and we really need to do more in order to sustain whatever that we have gained in the peace process, in which Ma'am Mariam Ferrer here is was the chairperson of the government peace panel in negotiating with the Moro Islamic Liberation Front. Yes, sustainable peace encompasses a holistic vision that extends beyond the absence of armed conflict. It is a multifaceted concept rooted in principles of inclusivity, equality, and social justice. The youth perceive a peaceful world as one where societies are characterized by a commitment to addressing social inequalities, fostering a diversity, and ensuring equal opportunities for all individuals. Environmental sustainability is also integral to their understanding of peace, reflecting a recognition of the interconnectedness between social, economic, and environmental factors. Furthermore, the youth advocate for global perspective, emphasizing international cooperation, just like the program that we have today, diplomacy and dialogue as essential components of preventing conflicts and fostering peace. The youth envision a peaceful future that prioritizes education and empowerment, where access to quality education serves as a catalyst for understanding, tolerance, and collaboration. Human rights and dignity are fundamental pillars in their vision, as they stress the importance of protecting and promoting these rights on a larger scale. Cultural understanding and appreciation of diversity are also key elements, contributing to the creation of harmonious societies. Ultimately, the youth sees sustainable peace as a dynamic process that requires active civic participation, political engagement, and a collective commitment to building societies that prioritize justice, inclusivity, and well-being of both present and future generations. So from the perspective of a leader representing the Bangsamoro youth, we say that sustainable peace embodies a comprehensive vision that addresses both immediate and long-term challenges. There is a vision of a world where peace is not just the absence of violence, but a dynamic state that actively promotes social, economic, and environmental well-being. Inclusivity and equality are at the forefront, emphasizing the need of societies to eradicate discrimination, provide equal opportunities, and ensure that the participation of all individuals in decision-making process. So the meaning of sustainable peace in the eyes of the youth can vary, we know that, as perspectives on peace are shaped by individual experiences, cultural backgrounds, and societal context. However, we also have taken note that some common themes often emerge. We have heard of the inclusivity and equality, the environmental sustainability, social justice, education and empowerment, global cooperation, human rights, cultural understanding, and political engagement are all very important in order for us to sustain the peace. In summary, from the perspective of a youth leader, sustainable peace is a comprehensive concept, a forward-looking vision that acknowledges the interdependence of various factors and actively engages in building a world that is not only free from conflict, but also actively works towards the betterment of humanity and the planet. It is important to note that the perspectives of youth are dynamic and can evolve based on changing circumstances and emerging global challenges, and that sustainable peace requires a transformation in the way individuals perceive and relate to each other. So, in conclusion, I just would like to share that in the case of the Bangsamoro government, as already mentioned by Ma'am Ferrer, that now because of that acknowledgement that young people can contribute a lot in nation building, the new Bangsamoro government actually invest a lot to the young people to be part of the new government in order for of course, for us to, in various degrees, some of us are like me, a member of the parliament, but not only me, there are also some who are young. Actually, there are much, much younger than me who are also member of the parliament and also member of the cabinet of our government. I just want to note that we are very happy with this improvement in our region, not because I am a member of the parliament, but it is the acknowledgement that the young people are given an opportunity to be part of the decision-making body or the policy-making body of a government. So it is actually, I really emphasize this in every forum that I have attended, that the acknowledgement of the young generation that their role is very important is actually a must, or it is one of the key points that we really need to keep asserting to any government, that they should acknowledge the important role of the young people so that they can be engaged. Because if in the first place we do not acknowledge that their role is very important, then we always sideline their efforts and we do not as if see their efforts in nation building. So I reiterate that I think the role of the youth as not just we should think that they are not just the recipient of any services that the government can offer, but they are actually partner in nation building and they can actually contribute a lot. In any cases, for example, any challenges that a society is facing, we often see that some of the young people are directly or indirectly involved. But why it cannot be suppressed so immediately is because we do not engage them in problem solving. We do not engage them in finding a solution of a specific problem. So again, I thank the organizer that we have this opportunity in the Bangsamoro government. I think we are, a lot of challenges still are there, but I am very happy to note that because of the peace agreement that the government of the Philippines and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front have signed, and also the involvement of the young generations in the government, we now see our region as the second fastest growing economy in the Philippines, in the country. Before, it is, of course, it's a conflict-affected areas. We are the poorest of the poor in our region, but now we are, as I've said, we are the second fastest growing region in the country. And we have, just last year, we have the double-digit reduction of the poverty incidence in the Philippines. So again, a lot more to be done, but we just want to note that actually we are on the right track and we are actually doing well with the effort of our leaders and the contribution of the young people. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Merjani. And now I want to give the floor to Ms. Amal Abubakar from Somalia. She is a monitoring and evaluation specialist at Somalia National Bureau of Statistics, and most importantly, she is a youth activist in Somalia. So, floor is yours, Ms. Abubakar, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. Good night, good morning, assalamu alaikum. It's my great pleasure to be back in Turkey, my second country, and to be here with you today. And I extend my sincere gratitude to the Islamic Cooperation Youth Forum and the Turkish Ministry of Foreign Affairs for gathering us here through the Antalya Diplomacy Forum in its third edition. Ladies and gentlemen, as a young female who was born and grew up in a conflict and witnessed instability in her country, someone who lost relatives, friends, and loved ones in a war, getting sustainable peace means a dream came true to me. And during my education journey in Turkey a few years back, I saw, felt, and enjoyed what sustainable peace can bring. So peace building has become a global priority, and sustaining peace is not intended to only reduce the conflict, but to also eliminate the root causes of conflicts and to address them. Today, Somali youth, which represent 75% of the population, like the other 600 million young people around the world, encounter several challenges in their efforts to contribute, to the global peace. They live in fragile and conflict-affected contexts where exclusion, limited influence, the high unemployment rate, the threat of violence and radicalization, extremism, insecurity, irregular migration, and lack of access to the basic services, among others, limit young people's participation and their capacity to influence and contribute to the peace-building process in the country. But despite all these challenges, it is worth noting that young people led Somalia's struggle for independence and shaped national politics during the formative years of democratic rule. A youth-led political party formed by 13 young freedom fighters unshackled Somali from Italian and British rule, delivering independence in 1960. So the Somali Youth League, SYL, was a nationalist political party with the intended goal of ending colonial rule, uniting all Somali territories, and also safeguarding Somali interests. And notable national leaders emerged from the SYL, including the first Somali President Aden Abdullah Othman and Prime Ministers Abdurrazzaq Haji Hussein and Mohammed Ibrahim Igal. So furthermore, SYL's legacy is still serving as a source of inspiration and a point of reference of today's Somali youth, including me, whose drive for empowerment can elevate the socio-economic standing, advance peace and stability, and help reshape Somali national politics and its development agenda. Since his re-election for the second term in May 2022, the current president of Somalia, His Excellency Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, who was with us in the official opening of this forum, and Prime Minister Hamza Abdi have embarked on aggressive campaign of having young leaders in the decision-making body of the nation, where more than 30% of the cabinet is made up of youth younger than the age of 40, so that they build trust in the government and political institutions and also to contribute to the sustainable peace efforts in the country. I see as a young leader, sustaining peace is a shared task and responsibility that needs to be fulfilled by the government and all other stakeholders, including us as youth, which are key to creating sustainable peace and have roles and responsibilities to shape the needs to implement this agenda. Nevertheless, as my colleagues also highlighted, by actively involving and supporting young people, including them in the decision-making bodies, involving them in the policy formulation and implementation process, and changing the cultural mindset towards youth in the government and also outside of the government, I believe we can create a more inclusive, resilient, and peaceful world for generations to come. In conclusion, on behalf of young people, I urge governments, including my own countries, civil society organizations, the private sector, and all other stakeholders to create spaces for us as young people to express our opinions and listen to us instead of viewing us as victims or as perpetrators of violence, recognizing youth as active social actors with their own perspectives, encourage the formation of youth groups where our voices can be heard and we can share our thoughts. In order to build the trust between us, between the government and youth leaders, we need transparent channels of communication and collaboration. We need to make sure that our voices are heard, and please invest in youth. Recognize and celebrate our efforts, highlight our achievements. When we feel included, we become more invested in peace building. And to get there, my fellow youth leaders, we play a critical role here. We first, as youth, need to enhance our capacities and equip ourselves with the skills first to be qualified for any leadership role and to contribute to the peace building efforts. We then need to advocate and stand up for human rights and against violence in all forms, act locally, and raise awareness between youth groups, use social media for positive change. A good example of awareness is in Somalia, where the government is currently leading a fight against the terrorist groups who hire young people to kill the innocent children, men and women of their own country. And as a young leaders, we have an important role here, which is raising awareness between youth. Yes, the military power is there, but it is not enough. And as Allah says in His Quran, while talking to His Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, He says, "Ud'u ila sabili rabbika bil hikmati wal maw'idati al hasana," which means invite mankind to the way of your Lord with wisdom and good instruction, and argue with them in a way that it is best. So we need to be vocal about the importance of peace. As young leaders, let's be around the table, not on the table, and let the decisions made by us and for us. Stay blessed, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ms. Abu Bakr. And in the inauguration ceremony, His Excellency Hakan Fidan Bey said that if another country had committed such a crime, it would definitely have faced all kinds of sanctions. As the member of the Gaza Contact Group, his words are very important. And the South Africa's effort against Israel in the International Court of Justice is important, but not enough. This is why this roundtable is also an urgent call for all members of the international community. Now, I would like to give the floor to the Muntasir Bey from Burj Al Laklak Youth Center in Qusay Sharif, so that he will inform us possible contributions of the youth in the international community to the latest situation in Palestine in framework of his own experience. So the floor is yours, Muntasir Bey.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to be with you here today to present my city, Jerusalem, and my country, Palestine, in this forum. And I would like to thank the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Turkish Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the Islamic Youth Forum for inviting me to be part of this forum. For sure, when we're talking about youth, future, peace, and what's happening now in Palestine, Jerusalem, West Bank, and Gaza, and if we're focusing about what's happening now in Gaza, we will say what we're talking about right now, in which peace we are talking, and where we're going to reach with these situations and what's happening in Palestine. During this time, and we are talking about the future of youth and peace, hundreds of people killing in Gaza. The first day, in the opening day of this forum, 100 people killed when they was trying to take food closed from the UNRWA stations that they should be supported by them. I don't want to start from the traditional events and the things that only makes you looking at the situation and it's going worse and worse. But this is the truth. This is how it's going in Palestine. My whole life in Jerusalem, I had so many stories happening with the Israelis during my work as a youth in the city of Jerusalem. And I can tell you, now we have 51% of the youth in the 12th grades, they are dropped out from schools because they need to go out to find a job to support their families. So how they can think about peace if they don't have money to support themselves? Now, there's 1 million children, youth, girls, boys in Gaza without houses, food, clothes, education, and a future. What we can do for them? Nothing. I'm living in Jerusalem and I can't support anyone in Gaza because if I did that, I will go directly to the jail by the Israelis. I can't transfer any money to any one of my families. I can't support anyone there, even if they are far from me, like 45 kilos or 50 kilos. This is exactly the real situation happening in Palestine. If you're talking about the government, the Israeli government, it's the right side of the government. Bibi Netanyahu, who was mentioning in different speeches that there is nothing called Palestinian Authority. And there is nothing called Palestine, State of Palestine. So about which peace we can process with people talking clearly for the world there is no Palestinian government and there is no State of Palestine. What is the point? What is the future with this government? If you're talking about the behaviors of the Israelis in the last 10 years in the West Bank, today, if you drive your car from Jerusalem to Jenin, the top point of the West Bank, or to Al-Karmel, the last village in the south of the West Bank, you will see settlements in the both sides of the streets. Do you know there is more than 800,000 Israelis living in the West Bank in settlements? So if you're talking about the borders of 1967, there's nothing like that today. So about which kind of peace we are talking? The other thing, the racism, the behaviors of racism that we face daily in Jerusalem. They destroyed our houses in different reasons. I'm daily, when I'm entrance to the city, the old city of Jerusalem, or if I'm going to the Aqsa Mosque, I need to have a body check from the Israelis. And sometimes they said to me, you can't entrance, even if my work inside the old city of Jerusalem. Sorry, I didn't introduce myself directly to you, but I am working inside the old city of Jerusalem. I'm running organization. It's 9 dunam inside the old city of Jerusalem, which called Burj al-Laklak. Burj al-Laklak, it's one of the oldest towers in the wall, the historical wall of Jerusalem. And this place, the Israelis had a plan to build 240 apartments on this land as a settlement inside the old city of Jerusalem to break the demography of the old city, to have more Israelis, Jews living in which they called it the Muslim quarters. So this is the story. This is the daily life we have to face in Jerusalem and in Palestine. The last thing I can focus on. What's happening in Gaza, the world watching. And everyone can see what's happening daily in Gaza. We know there is a lot of countries trying to help, trying to support by the diplomacy, by different ways. We appreciate that. But peace not happening without power. And if we don't have the power, nothing can be changed. Many countries, Islamic countries, Arabic countries, and especially in the last 10 years, they did normalizations with Israel. And they was always said, we are standing on our special conditions that Israel should go back to the borders of 1967 1967, and Israel should accept that East Jerusalem is the capital of Palestine, and so many other points. But when you signed the agreements, did you make clear that Israel respect your conditions? They went back to the borders of 1967. They stopped building the settlements in the West Bank. They gave the Jerusalemites people the rules in Jerusalem. I'm telling you, no, nothing happens. It's getting worse and worse and worse. The last point, identity. I live in Jerusalem, but I don't hold any paper, any identity that telling the world that I am Jerusalemites. I live in Jerusalem. I'm Palestinian, living in Jerusalem, holding Israeli ID, Jordanian passport, and Israeli travel documents. When I travel all over the world and I'm presenting myself that I'm Palestinian, so they told me, why you have a Jordanian passport? Where's your Palestinian passport? So I have to tell them the whole story, that what's happening between 1948 till 1967, and the full story of Jerusalem. So before anything, before we start talking about the future and the peace in the Middle East or between Palestinians and Israel, there is no peace with these situations. We need to find a way how to make Israel listening to the decisions that came from the United Nations and the world. In the last 3 months, so many decisions took in this international world, and nothing implemented in Palestine. Thank you very much.
Muntasir Bey, thank you very much for sharing the perspective from Quds Sharif. And as we know that Israel is the biggest violator of the international law and community for the moment, and unfortunately, the international community cannot take action against them. And it's shown all of us that without the solution of the Palestine, there will be no peace at all in the world. And I want to give the floor to Ms. Selin Yılmaz Hanım, head of the Youth Atlantic Treaty Association and the co-president of the Club Climate Europe. Please, the floor is yours, Ms. Yılmaz.
Thank you so much for your kind invitation. It's a pleasure sitting alongside these amazing people, amazing young activists, because I believe we need stage more than ever in this globalized world. So I was born and raised in Istanbul, Turkey, which also stands for the NATO umbrella. I was not raised by parents or grandparents who got traumatized because of the war. We felt safe in our own bubble, own environment. So especially in transatlantic region, our mentality is shaped in very safe and secure environment. It felt this way up until 2022. 2022, when Russia had full-scale attack on Ukraine, Europe, the transatlantic region, for the first time understood that war can happen anytime, anywhere, any territory. It is understood that peace is not possible if it's not for every single inch of this world. Moreover, we are the first generation, first children of globalized world, the technology. We are the first generation had internet access at our homes, at our schools. We had more chance to get the globalized ideas. We had more chance to exchange our cultures. While sitting at our homes, we can still watch vlogs, we can still watch different arguments, discussions online on the internet about every single part of this world. This gives us another burden. This gives us another role. The reason I'm trying to emphasize the cultural exchange is that I believe we are the first generation which has the most open-mindedness to interconnect each other. Our role is creating dialogues. Our role is spreading the message of enjoying differences. In every single session that I have been attending, we are talking about creating dialogues. But what I also see is that we are missing the meaning of dialogue. Dialogue is based on first listening, then understanding, and then discussing, negotiating. If we don't listen to each other, if we dictate our ideas to each other, how can we talk about a dialogue? How can we talk about peace and secure environment? We cannot. We don't have to agree on everything. We don't have to say, yes, you're right all the time. But we have to respect each other. We will respect each other. We will find a way for one single mutual aim, which is peace and happiness in this world. We have to be the voice of the Ukrainian child lost her parents in the war. We have to be the humanitarian aid that people of Gaza is missing at the moment. We have to be the voice of the African children who are not reaching the clean water to drink. This generation has a different role than the rest, and I'm very proud to represent this generation of mine today in this round table. I would like to thank the organizers because we have to be sure that our voice is heard. We are not the decision makers of today, but we are tomorrow. We will decide. Our mentalities will shape the future of this world, and we are responsible. Again, this is the globalized world, and we are the first generation, the children of those. But it is important to create awareness of the future threats. We have to talk about the nuclear threat. We have to talk about the climate threat. I will give you one example of the missed dialogue, the Arctic Council. Arctics are melting twice faster than the rest of the world. It will affect every single person of this world because of the global warming. But is Arctic Council functioning? No. Why? Because Russia and other countries, they don't get along well. They cannot be this level of irresponsible about our future. We don't have to share the same values, but we are sharing the same world. And we have to understand that as the younger generations, we cannot let the current decision makers to shape our future, but we'll be sure that they'll hear from us, they'll understand us, and we will shape their ideas of today. In order to create this awareness, we cannot just talk about 18 to 35 years as that we understand at the moment from youth. We have to start from primary schools. We have to start from high schools. We have to create this environment of dialogue. We have to explain the importance of dialogue to our children because we are the young generation today, but they will be in the upcoming years. We have to feed our common goal, our mutual aims with our individual awareness. And my dear colleagues, it is, again, our responsibility, our role. I would like to conclude my speech with the great words of our great leader, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk. Peace at home, peace in the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Selin Hanım. Selin Hanım is the head of the Youth Atlantic Treaty Association, which is the Youth Association of the NATO. And now I want to give the floor to my brother Yaya Dame Bey, who was the former head of the Muslim Youth of the West Africa, who is from the Sahel region, which is one of the hot regions of the world. And now he is the co-founder and the president of the Talk for Education. So, Mr. Dama, the floor is yours, please.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be here, and I would like to first thank the Islamic Cooperation Youth Forum and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Turkey for organizing such a wonderful platform, which is already a solution to a sustainable peace building, because the fact of gathering people from all around the world, I can say that it's another UN General Assembly in the world. And I had a discussion with an expert of the UN 2 days ago. He was telling me he appreciates the format of this forum more than what he used to have in the UN. And I was also laughing because I attended the UN General Assembly recently, and I'm very happy with this forum. And I hope that it will be a lifelong initiative that will bring people around the tables and discuss and share the experiences. So mainly for the topic we are talking about here, my intervention will be, first, I will give you some general challenges that the youth is facing. Second, I will talk about the experience of my country, Burkina Faso. I will give you some information that may surprise you and share our experience with you. And definitely I will give some perspectives that can be useful to all of us in our different countries. So as I said, this platform is already a solution because when we take the challenges of peace building, conflict prevention, as the professor said at the very beginning, young people have most of the time been forgotten. So we have not been invited around the table to give also our opinion. And most of the decisions have been taken without us. And people say, if you take a decision for me without me, it's like you are taking a decision against me. So that's why I really appreciate this forum, which is going to help us. In terms of challenges that generally young people face, as I already said, so we have the lack of platform for decision making, so which is one of the challenges everywhere in the world or in many countries. So we also have the fact that young people are not really well heard and their voices are not well taken into account. Sometimes we speak, but we are ignored. And we also have the challenges of lack of funding. At some places of the world, we may have some young people, some organizations, they have interesting initiatives, but they lack funding to achieve their different goals and their different activities. So I will come after on the challenges to propose solution. But the case of my country is a little bit specific because I'm from the country which is now in Africa the most affected by terrorism. According to the World Institute of Economic and Peace, we are first in Africa and even second after Afghanistan in the world. And thousands of schools, more than 6,000 of schools are closed because of terrorism. I'm an educator, I'm a teacher, and I can't even visit some places of my country today. So 1 school out of 4 are closed because of the terrorist issues. And in the same time, if we take this situation, so we have been experiencing the issue of terrorism since 2016 to 17. But we are unfortunately from those African countries, Francophone African countries, with an historical experience with the colonizers. For sure we are independent since 1960, but unfortunately we are not really independent because we have a type of neo-colonialism that is still going on. But now the solution, if you take our country, we have the most youngest president of Africa. He's 34 years old, His Excellency Captain Ibrahim Traoré. We are facing now the issue of conflicts. And how do we do? Because to talk about peace building, conflict prevention, we have different issues. Either we are already in the conflict or we are not yet. But now we are in the conflict. So how do we do? So there are some local solutions, even if we have been these so-called supporters who were our colonizers for more than many years. So we have in our country, we had many international organizations, international military bases in our country. But despite all these presence, we were still facing the issue of terrorism and people are being killed. And recently, the youth has decided to take his responsibility. And as I told you, the country is led by the youngest president of Africa. And today the young people are playing a serious role to make peace back in our country. And the young people are now enrolled as volunteers to save the nation and to find internal solution, even if we are open to cooperation with many countries, including Turkey, who is now one of our best partners in terms of cooperation. So, but it's to, sharing all this with you is to lay an emphasis on the role of young people. And in our country today, without the young people, I'm quite sure that there are many things that can't be possible. And young people are involved at different levels: decision making, civil society organization, even if now the political sector is on break, because now we don't talk about politics in our country. Now what we are doing, we are all collaborating to find a solution to the insecurity issue, and after we may talk about maybe election and other things. So young people, we all agree on this issue. Without young people, it is very difficult. And as she said, in general, we say young people are the future, and I can even say that they are the now of the world. We are the now leaders and the future leaders, because tomorrow starts today. So, and yes, we have to work as young people to also bring our contribution to helping our different countries. Now, in terms of solution, as an educator, first, I would like to propose peace education as a solution, because nowadays, if we want to prepare the world for a peaceful world, so we have to start at the level of the school, even more than that, at the level of the families, because we all grow up in a family. Then we go to school and we spend more time in schools. So families, schools, and the community, they all have to be involved nowadays in the process of peace building. So, and I'm quite sure that will be helpful. I've been involved in some programs of the UN called the Global Schools Program that promote the SDGs in schools, how to incorporate the sustainable development goals in the school, in the curriculums. And for 2 years I've been involved in that, and I created the first SDGs club in my country and in my school. And now with young people, every week we have a meeting, a peace club meeting, where with the young people we discuss and we try to educate them about sustainable peace building. And also with the youth, I really appreciate the Islamic Cooperation Youth Forum with its program called the MOIC program, which is a very powerful program that can prepare the young people in terms of preparing their future, in terms of diplomatic issues, peace building issues, in terms of meeting and discussing the world pressing issues. So I really congratulate the ICYF for this program that I do believe need to be implemented everywhere in the world, because it is really interesting. So these are some of the perspectives that I propose, and the government, the decision makers have to support young people to leverage our energy and our creativity to propose solutions to promote peace in the world. So together, I'm sure we can make a long-lasting solution to save the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yaya. Now we have 5 minutes left, so I want to give floor to my colleague Yunus Çolak Bey for a 2-minute wrap-up of the ICYF activities in this field. Then I will give floor to each speaker for their last conclusive remarks. Please, Yunus Bey.
Thank you so much, Mr. President, and I would like to say that I am so honored to be part of this roundtable, which consists of very distinguished guests and who came from the practices of the peace and also who came from the theoretical aspect of the providing peace. So actually, I would like to give a brief information about what we have done for providing sustainable peace in ICYF. And I would like to talk about one important project that we have been doing for more than 5 years. As ICYF, as a way to contribute to sustainable peace of the world, we gave great importance to gather youth under the Modulo OIC Student Clubs project umbrella. While this project offers youth to come together, on the other hand, they are getting chance to share their ideas and thoughts with each other. Basically, they are simulating, discussing, and try to find solution to problems of the youth in general. But most importantly, within this project, they get the chance to understand each other better. Within this perspective, we have more than 500 MOIC student clubs in the 67 different countries. We have more than 1,000 young students actively participated to the MOIC program currently. They are regularly participating in international programs and trainings regarding the field of the diplomacy and other things as well. We have also created ICYF Online Academy, where all our MOIC students get chance to have online lectures prepared by the well-known academicians. As a conclusion, we will be keep going to gather the youth under the MOIC Student Clubs project umbrella, and I do invite our young colleagues, our young students, to be part of our MOIC clubs and actively contributed to the peace of the world. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Yunus Bey. Talha Hocam, for your conclusive
Thanks for
remarks.
this invitation. I think, whenever I'm invited for youth events, I try to participate because we know that the peace can only flourish from really young people. They can be trained, they can be mobilized, and I think the youth, women, and disadvantaged actors needs to be instrumentalized. We often hear the voice of some decision makers who do not take into account overall interest of those youth, women, and marginalized groups. So I think it is good to give them more information, more mobilization resources, and in these kind of panels, in these kind of events, I think we have to keep more space for youth, but not in the same, instrument style of discussion. I think we have to also find new ways to activate these. I know your activities. I had the opportunity to participate. I think they are excellent for mobilizing, especially the most conflictual regions are, unfortunately, the OIC member countries. So I really value your efforts in this direction, so I think it should be also cooperated with other regional and global institutions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Meryem Hanım, please, for conclusive remarks.
So I'll just be brief, and we all know or probably heard of the saying that if you want peace, prepare for war. And many of us, several times now, maybe you've heard the reverse of that, which is if you want peace, prepare for peace. And I think I'm in the company of people, young people, and even not so young people like myself, who are actually preparing and building this peace. And let's all work together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ferrer Hanım, and I hope that the number of the Peace Party will be increased in the upcoming days. And for yours, for conclusive remarks, Mr. Haris Bey.
Thank you. Peace is often unfair, but it is better to negotiate for 1,000 years than to have a war for 24 hours.
Thank you. And for your final remarks, Mr. Marjani, please.
Thank you very much. I just want to emphasize what I have said earlier, that the young people or the youth should not be a recipient of services of the government per se, but rather a partner of the government in all fields. Thank you very much.
Dr. Muntasir Bey.
I remember yesterday Minister of Virgin, the Lebanese Minister of Virgin, he said something yesterday. He said, we not call it peace. We called it preparing, or it's a stop of fire. Because most of the time our enemy, when we build the peace agreement with, he worked to make himself more power. Sorry to say that, but he used this time to prepare himself to the biggest war.
Thank you. And Ms. Emel, please.
Well, thank you very much again for having us here, and it was good to hear from each and every one of you. And let's hope for a peaceful world. And we look forward to the next Antalya Diplomacy Forum with to come to a situation better than this. Thank you.
And for your final remarks, Selin.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I would like to start by quoting Kofi Annan, the former Secretary General of the United Nations. He says, "The world is not ours to keep. We are holding it in trust of the younger generations. So please do not underestimate the effect that you can create by speaking, by lobbying, by being out loud. So let's not feel terrified, but let's shape our future together." Thank you.
And we will finalize our session with the words of the GAB, please.
Okay, it's to thank you so much for what you are doing to helping the young people to build their capacities. As he said, you have a lot of programs at the ISYF. I wish you all the best to continue working for young people. And I wish all the best to the ADF because, as I said at the very beginning, it's an important platform for the world to meet and propose solutions to the pressing issues of the world. So thank you so much, and I wish everyone a great day.
To all fellow speakers and to the audience, thank you very much for coming here. Thank you very much for your patience. I really enjoyed with your speeches. Inshallah, for once we meet next year in Antalya Diplomacy Forum, we will meet at a more peaceful world order. And inshallah, I pray to Allah that we will see the free state of Palestine. So let's meet next year. Thank you very much for coming here.